What's up guys, this is MTG Matt for you, and today we're evaluating all the colors and the land cards. This is the last review about Strixhaven, so we're almost through it. So let's get going with creature justice. With Cody, Vociferous Codex, 3 mana 1/4 legendary artifact creature construct. With attacks you can cast permanent spells. And you can pay 4 mana tap it to add Wilburg, and when you cast your next spell this turn, exile cards from top of your library until you exile an instant or sorcery card with lesser mana value. On the end of turn, you may cast a card without paying its mana cost. Push each other card, exile this way on the bottom of your library in random order. I think this card is absolutely terrible, without a doubt. You might see some jank play with this, where you try to give this to your opponent. We've got this 4 mana Dimir Saga from Kaldheim, where you can exchange 2 permanents with the same permanent time with your opponent, but then this requires your opponent to have an artifact. But as such, you have to even cast this before Cody, because this doesn't allow you to cast permanent, and it's just an absolute mess, and it's just a horrible, terrible card, and it's going to see 0 playing constructed. As I've got a dual model card is Wandering Archaic and Explore the Vastlands. So Wandering Archaic is a 5 mana 4/4 avatar with whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, they may pay 2. If they don't, you may copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So if this is on the board and your opponent casts something, then you can copy it for free unless they pay 2. And then you can choose new targets. But, well, this requires you to pay 5 mana up front. The creature isn't that great, and well, your opponent can still just remove it. And oftentimes, copying their spell won't necessarily be of benefit to you. For example, if there are no other creatures on the board, your opponent just removes this with a removal spell. There won't be any other targets, so it's useless. So Wandering Archaic, pretty terrible. And Explore the Vastlands, 3 mana sorcery. Each player looks at the top 5 cards of the library, reveals a land card and or an instant or sorcery card from among them, then puts the cards they revealed this way into their hand. Wait, then puts the cards they revealed this way into their hand and rests on the bottom of the library in a random order. So land or an instant or sorcery card. Each player gains 3 life. So this can be beneficial to you, right, if you build your deck right, but at the end of the day, I don't think this is going to happen. It's just simply not worth it putting this card into your deck. If you want to have such effects, they're just better cards to search up stuff for your library. Just draw cards, or if you want a land card, play Cultivate. I think that's overall this card is very bad, and it's going to see 0 playing constructed. I said we got Strixhaven Stadium. This is very interesting. 3 mana artifact, you can add colorless and put a point count on Strixhaven Stadium. And whenever a creature does common damage to you, remove a point counter from Strixhaven Stadium. And whenever a creature you control does common damage to an opponent, put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Then if it has 10 or more point counters on it, remove them all and that player loses the game. Now, this card can be an alternative win condition in an aggressive creature deck, which is nice, like, no doubt. And then the question only becomes whether you would feel comfortable putting in a 3 mana rock into your aggressive deck, which can ramp you a bit, but, well, can you actually make use of the mana? That's the question. And I think the answer is probably no. I think an aggressive deck still won't be able to afford putting in Strixhaven Stadiums. And actually, the requirement is harder to meet, I think, than most people realize, because sure, if you tap it, you get a point counter, but let's just say this card gets naturally 3 point counters just from tapping, and you don't lose any points from taking damage from your opponent. Then you need to connect 7 times on your opponent's face to win with this. In my opinion, if you play an aggressive deck and you're connecting 7 times with your opponent's face, you actually should have already won. So in that case, you're just sacrificing a deck slot for Strixhaven Stadium. And because of that, I think it's going to see 0 play actually. Maybe sure, like a janky play where you have a lot of 1/1s just trying to get in, but even then I can't imagine a world where this makes sense. And just playing a 3 mana rock also just doesn't make a sense. Only if it has some upside like Skyclave. What's it called? Skyclave Relic? Not sure about it, but there's this like Prosthetic Horizon 3 mana rock that's indestructible and you can kick it. That makes no sense, but any of the Strixhaven Stadium is going to see 0 play. Next I've got Hall of Oracles, which is a land. You can tap it to add colors, you can pay 1 and tap it to add 1 mana and add color. Or you can tap it to put a 1 encounter on target creature. Activate only as a sorcery and only if you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. I think this card can see some fringe play in like aggressive Magecraft decks, maybe in Silver Quill, where occasionally, you know, you don't need that much mana and occasionally you can just tap this for 1 encounter on a creature, which is okay. So Hall of Oracles, I'll give this like a tier 4 rating. Next I've got the Biblioplex, also another land, which just taps for colors, and you can pay 2 mana and tap it to look at the top card of the library. If it's an instant or sorcery card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put the card into your hand, you may put it into your graveyard. Activate only if you have exactly 0 or 7 cards in hand. Now, this card I'm really not sure how to evaluate. Let's put it, I think it's more likely to have exactly 7 cards in hand if you play this in a control deck than to have exactly 0 cards in hand in an aggressive deck. I think that's the more likely outcome, and then in those decks the question becomes, well, if you're playing this in like a control-y deck, where you might want to have this in, is it worth putting in the Biblioplex instead of, for example, like a Crawling Barrens, right? Because you're always sacrificing having colored mana, which can be very important, obviously, in a controlling type of deck. And then the payoff is, if you have exactly 7 cards in hand, you can take a look at the top card, and if you don't like it, put it away. I'm not sure this would make the cut, actually. I think it rather won't, unless... I think there's a card you just have to try out to get a feel for it. It's hard to evaluate. Because then if you have 7 cards in hand, exactly, you can just surveil, right? Take a look at the card, either draw it and put it into your graveyard. So, I think at the end of the Biblioplex is going to see 0 play, but I think there's a card you just have to try out to get a feeling for it, right? It's hard to evaluate. Next we got a land cycle, a rare land cycle of dual color lands for all the college colors, right? And they all read similarly. Let's take Frostbolt Snarl as an example. As Frostbolt Snarl enters the battlefield, you may reveal an island or mountain card from your hand. If you don't, Frostbolt Snarl enters the battlefield tapped, and otherwise it doesn't, right? So if you play like 2 colors, play Frostbolt Snarl, you reveal a mountain, this comes into play on tap, which is very good, right? I think this land side is okay, but it's probably only good in 2 color decks. I think in 3 color decks it already becomes pretty hard to consistently fulfill this requirement to, you know, have a basic land card in your hand to reveal, so this doesn't get into play untapped. But in dual color lands, it's just a good land cycle, and you know, it's a land cycle, so sure, it's going to see play. What can I say? But I wouldn't put this in tier 1 because I don't think it's that great of land cycle. I think the shock lands were still better than this, so I put this in like the tier 2 category, all of them obviously. And the last one, there is just a fine land cycle. Next I've got another land, it's Access Tunnel. You can tap it for colorless or pay 3 and tap it so that target creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. I think this card is quite useful actually, especially with a freed Flame Painter. The 1/4 creature that has double strike, and whenever it deals common damage, you can cast an instant sorcery from your graveyard for free this turn. I think it synergizes perfectly with exact that creature, and with that exact creature, I will put Access Tunnel into a deck. Otherwise, sure, this might find some application here and there, but it's not going to be super popular, so I put this in the tier 4 category. Where's the access town? There we go. Let's say we got Reflective Golem, 3 mana 2/3 Golem, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Reflective Golem, you may pay 2. If you do copy that spell, you may choose a new target for a copy. Interesting effect, but at the end of the day I think it's too mana intensive, even for pump spells. Maybe. Or I might be wrong and you put this into a Magecrafty pump deck, probably in Silver Quill, as your free drop, and then you copy the stuff, get a lot of Magecraft triggers, right? Because Magecraft also triggers from copying spells. So this might see some play in Magecrafty spells, Magecrafty decks. I'm doubting it, but I'm still putting this into the tier 4 category at least. And you can play it in any colored deck, so a lot of flexibility. Let's go to Zephyr Boots. An equipment for 1 mana, equipped creature is flying, and whenever equipped creature is common damage to play, draw a card and discard a card, and you quick for 2 mana. I think there's an excellent equipment. You can put it down for just 1 mana, equip it for just 2 mana, no colored mana required, and giving a creature flying is really good. On top with a cycle ability is very, very powerful. It's really, really good. I'm giving Zephyr Boots, because of that, a tier 3 rating. Let's go with Spell Satchel. I really love this card. 2 mana artifact. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, put a book counter on Spell Satchel. And you can tap it and remove a book counter from Spell Satchel to add colorless mana. And you can pay 3 mana, tap it, remove 3 book counters from Spell Satchel to draw a card. I think this is just an amazingly cool artifact, right? In the right deck, we have a lot of instant sorceries, such as maybe Dimir Control. If you put the 4 of these into your deck, it's a 2 mana rock, which we don't really have in standard right now. There is this, what's called Ring Crest or something from Kaldheim, from dual model Green God, which is a 2 mana rock, but you can only use the mana to cast creature spells of a chosen type or legendary creature spells. This mana you can use it for anything. And you might also get some artifact synergies with Prismari, for example, right? With the Prismari Elder Dragon. So Spell Satchel I'm really a big fan of. You can play this on turn 2, on turn 3. You might play your first instant or sorcery. This gets a book counter, and you might not always need the mana, and then if you don't need the mana, if this gets enough counters on it, you can use it to draw a card, which is awesome. I really, really like this card. It's in a way quite restricted in what decks it can go, but I think in those exact decks it's pretty good, and because of that I'm giving this a tier 3 rating. I really, really like this artifact. Next we got Campbells Guy, 2 mana 2/1 Golem. When it adds to the battlefield, you may search your library for basic land card revealed, then shuffle and put that card on top. Yeah, I won't see any plane constructed, obviously. Next we got Cockwork Artivist, 6 mana 4/5 construct with reach, and you can pay 2 mana and tap it to put a card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. Also won't see any plane standard. Next we got Biblioplex Assistant, 4 mana 2/1 Gargoyle with flying, and when it adds to the battlefield, put up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard on top of your library. Also won't see any play. It's just not good enough. Let's say we got Excavated Wall, 1 mana 0/4 wall with Defender, and you can pay 1 to tap it and mill a card. Now this card is in a way quite fascinating because it's colorless, so it can go in any deck. And you can pay 1 mana to get a 0/4 blocker. And it's an artifact, so you might have some synergies with the Prismari Elder Dragon. So that you can tap this for mana. And in the exact Prismari Elder Dragon deck, I could see this being played as a 1 mana artifact drop that can block a bunch of stuff. And it can even help you mill, instant sorceries into your graveyard if you wish to do that. So Excavated Wall, I think this might see some play. Fringely, so I'm giving this a tier 4 rating. Let's have a Letter of Acceptance, 3 mana artifact. You can tap it for 1 mana of any color, or pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it to draw a card. Yeah, I won't see any play. It's just not good enough. Just not good enough. Let's do an Archway Commons. Enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, you have to sacrifice it unless you pay 1. And then you can add 1 mana of any color. Yeah, this won't see any play. Just not good enough. And then we got another land cycle for all the colleges. These are all common. They tap for the college cards, they come into play tapped. But they all have the ability to pay 4 mana, tap it, scry 1, which is actually frequently used with Castle Vantress in blue. Castle Vantress obviously has the upside that it comes into play untapped if you control an island. But I'm a really big fan of Castle Vantress. Castle Vantress can give you a lot of value. However, Castle Vantress scries for 2, not for 1. So that's a big difference actually. Well, yeah, this isn't too great, but I wouldn't say that this is completely unusable. In colors which usually don't have access to this, such as Lorehold Campbells, right, Boros colors or Lorehold colors, maybe you play this as a 1 or 2 of, if scrying is important to you. Other than that, obviously this isn't great, but yeah. In the colors that don't have access to blue with Castle Vantress, I could see experimentations with that, but with Prismari and Quandaries which have access to blue, those won't use this. The other 3 colors, maybe you would experiment with that, so I mean at the end of the day it's going to see 0 play, but I wouldn't say that this is a completely terrible land cycle. And then the last card in our review is Team Pennant, 1 mana artifact equipment. The quick creature gets +1/+1, has Vigilance and Trample, and you can equip a creature token for 1 or just equip regularly for free. If you're equipping a creature token, this is obviously a very good value. Vigilance Trample +1/+1 for equip cost of 1 is very, very good. Maybe you can use this equipment in Warriors, because Warriors can cheat the equipment cost, right? But all in all, this won't see any play. Only maybe if you can cheat the equip cost, but even then, it's not going to be worth it. So Team Pennant 0 playing constructed. And with that, we're through with all the reviews. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to Strixhaven next week. Finally, we're going to be able to go to college. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy the videos. And stay tuned for my Theory Crafting videos where I, build some Theory Crafted decks. And I'm going to show those to you guys. So see you until then. Hey there, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this kind of content and want to see more fresh decks and standard meta decks, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it, and I see you guys soon.